The man just wants to make a normal delivery, but because he's so handsome he's always liked by the customers. He looks at the hot water handed over by the woman. Although the man did not want to drink it at all, but he was afraid that the customer would be angry and not pay the bill. He can only reluctantly take the cup of water and finish it. Just as he was about to leave, suddenly there was an indescribable taste in his mouth. Unbeknownst to him, he was walking in front. The woman immediately peeped through the door and watched with a sense of reluctance. Afterwards, the man's mouth became more and more uncomfortable, so he rushed to buy a bottle of water to clean his mouth. Soon he gets a new order, but as soon as he arrives at his destination it's the same address as before. Only this time the door was suddenly opened as soon as he rang the bell. The woman seems to have been waiting. When she saw it was the man from before, she offered him a loaf of bread. Because of the experience of the last time, he didn't want to take the bread this time, but when the woman exchanged the bread for a tip, Tony changed his smile and didn't refuse. But he never expected that in the next second, the woman actually pinched the hem of her skirt. Underneath was a 1-meter stone pillar. She asked what style of girlfriend a man like she can shift, but looking at her sweet smile, Tony's body felt a bit uncomfortable. She could only say that she had a boyfriend and did not want to stay any longer. But even after she said that, the girl still wanted to invite Tony to come inside for a while. Now Tony had no choice. He dropped a tip and said he'd never take another order from her again. Then he turned around and left in style. Unbeknownst to him, this was the beginning of the show. The next day, he got a call from the company saying there was a complaint against him. If the problem wasn't solved, he'd be fired. This was too much for Tony to handle. It must be that woman from yesterday. He decided to go to her to make an argument, but the girl was not as enthusiastic as she used to be. She dropped a bag of rubbish and slammed the door. Tony was about to complain, but he picked up the rubbish for the sake of the tip. But as he was taking it downstairs, his shoes were suddenly stained with red sauce. At first, Tony thought it was just juice, but strangely, the stain wouldn't come off. The next day he got another order from a woman. Tony wanted to complain in person, but the girl still ignored him, threw out the rubbish and the tip and closed the door. Tony wasn't happy, but for the sake of the money, he brought down the rubbish. Only this time it was heavier. He thought about the last time juice dripped on his shoes. Tony wondered what was in the bag, so he opened the bag. It turned out to be full of fresh ingredients, but the smell made Tony's head spin. It wasn't something he'd eaten on a daily basis. He just heard from his colleague yesterday. A delivery girl had recently disappeared. The day he first met the girl. Could this be related to the girl? But there was no evidence and Tony was worried that it was a mistake. Just when he was hesitating to call the police, the woman's order came again. After much deliberation, he chose to take the order. Tony had a tool with him to protect himself, but on this day, he rang the doorbell for a long time but there was no response, so he tried the knob. The door was unlocked, so he was curious and pushed the door open, but there was still a terrible smell in the room, and the room was full of rubbish and clear plastic curtains. But then the man saw something even more amazing.